Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Sabell. I'm president of Stenberg College and past president of BC Career Colleges Association, which I don't say in order to pad my resume. It's just gives me a little bit of background into what's going on in the private post-secondary education sector, most particularly, of course, in relation to career training. I'm looking out. It's wonderful to be here. I'm extremely pleased and humbled, actually, by having been given the opportunity to speak to everybody. I am recalling some sage advice from my mother right now, as I always tend to do at times when of great importance. You know, I'm being called to speak in front of people. But I have a feeling that I might be maybe mixing up a couple of her different pieces of advice, because I'm imagining all of you in a clean pair of underwear. So there are two different things there. In any case, I'll try to get past that. Stenberg College has been in sunny Surrey. Welcome everybody to sunny Surrey, to gorgeous Guildford, to be more specific. That's how we give this area a special nomenclature. Stenberg College has been in Surrey for over a quarter century, and CareAid was one of the first programs that we started to deliver way back when. Since that time, we've graduated over 1,000 CareAids, over 1,000 LPNs, over 500 psychiatric nurses, and now we're starting to graduate therapeutic recreation professionals as well, which go into the system we're talking about today. Stenberg College is part of the private post-secondary education sector, as I mentioned, and that sector has, I'm going to give some approximates here because these numbers are shifting all the time, but just over 300 designated institutions across the province. About 51,000 students come into those institutions in any given year, and into about 2,300 different programs. And of the 38 institutions that deliver a CareAid program, 20 of those institutions are in our sector, in the private post-secondary education sector. Those 38 institutions have about 77 different locations, again, spread out throughout the province, in every nook and cranny. So when we're talking about access to training, certainly those stats are important, and our sector is quite important. The lion's share of those 77 different locations are in the private post-secondary education sector. So, I'll speak a little bit, that's a little bit of a background about where I'm coming from and the experience that I can speak to. We're notoriously poor in our sector at gathering statistics from across all institutions. So I'm going to speak a little bit from our own experience at Stenberg College as to what we see happening here, and get to the question of why is it as educators we are failing, because we are. It's okay, we're comfortable with that type of language. We try to be honest with ourselves, but we're certainly failing in our part to provide the numbers that are required, and of course then to talk about some solutions. A lot of my thunder has been stolen by my predecessors, but that's just fine, gives me time for other things. So in our heyday, we were graduating or taking in about 65 CareAid students in any given year. 2 years ago, we took in 41 students. Last year we took in 51, but that was because we took over the train out of an institution that was closing its doors in the interior. This year we are expecting to start in the neighborhood of 30. So our numbers have been in steady decline since 2012. And in that time, just so we're clear, our marketing budget, that which is most important in terms of attracting new students to the program, has increased by 40% in that same time period. And I can tell you that from a revenue perspective, CareAid is second out of all of our 18 programs, second in total revenue, And it's just ahead of a program that, quite frankly, we literally run out of a sense of duty to the community. Okay, that's the only program that it's in front of in terms of total revenue. And this isn't just our experience. And there's a real serious problem here, particularly when you go into small communities, as we are in Vernon, for example, with 6 students, is effectively we're running that program at a loss. Okay, so when you go into smaller communities, you don't have the volume for single programs that you would have in larger areas, larger urban areas like Vancouver. And so there is a disincentive for educators to put themselves at risk or get involved with running those small classes, which smaller communities need by their very nature. So what's going on? Why are we failing? Well, I take issue with the one, and I don't want to suggest that it's not a legitimate statistic, but it's students talking about tuition being a barrier, and sometimes be tempting to focus on that. I do think it is quite misleading. At about $10,000, CARE is a third, less than a third, the cost of LPN. We have no problem filling our LPN program at 3.5 times the cost of a CARE program and over twice the length. The reality is that we're right back to 2007 in terms of unemployment rate. I looked up the statistics. Lo and behold, we're just been announced we're at 4.6% unemployment rate in British Columbia. It's the exact same rate we were in 2007. 2008, I think it dipped even lower. So those challenges have returned, but there's another key difference there that I think is overlooked, and that is that while CARE wages have remained relatively static, a number of the competitor wage groups that draw people away from this career choice have gone up. Trades most especially, but in a number of other areas as well. And you only have to pick up a newspaper or drive down the street to see who you're in competition with and what they're paying. Amazon was for weeks and weeks spending tens of thousands of dollars advertising for positions at starting wages at $17 an hour plus benefits to work in a warehouse. No training necessary, show up, $17 an hour. Okay, and they're out competing your sector. And I've been hearing the ads, Daniel. They're great ads. But that hasn't moved the meter, and we watch every day. We watch the inquiries coming in for CARE aid. Unfortunately, as good as those ads are, as frequently as they run, they have not moved the meter in terms of inquiries coming in to our school. So what is going on? Well, we know that you're in competition, serious competition with other employers, and that's not going away. That's only going to get worse. We have a perception problem among Canadian-born individuals about this career. I believe that's absolutely true. Traditionally, new Canadians were the backbone of those groups of students coming into our programs, and that group has fallen away. Okay. Certainly that happened, as we know, with the institution of higher standards for English coming into the CARE program. I'm not criticizing that. I think that's a good thing. I'm just pointing it out as a reality. So, I guess I'm about to be flagged here. Have you added on my extra time or no? Oh my goodness. So, let's talk about solutions, because that's what we're out here to talk about, and that's quite frankly what's gets me excited about my job. We talk about solutions to problems all the time, and I think there are some. First of all, the private education sector has nearly unlimited capacity and exceptional flexibility when it comes to reaching into small communities and putting on programs as needed, where needed. Okay, so from our sector, we know that we can meet a need. So really the problem is, how do we bring more people into programs? Well, it's already been talked about, the BC Cares initiative, which was incredibly successful. Produced about 1,000 additional grads over and above what was traditionally produced in a given year. But it came at a cost, of course. Not only to speak to our own example at Stenberg College to give you some of those types of statistics. We did really well with that program. We took in 122 additional students over and above what our annual average was. And we received just under $1 million from the government program in order to do that. We participated as well in the $76,000 marketing program that was spoken about by my colleague. So without a question, that was successful, 2007-8. The only problem with it was one point in time. It came and it went. It was successful, it was not continued. And since that time, of course, the statistics are right there for all of you to see. Since 2013-14, as was pointed out, we've dropped by 500 sector-wide, 500 graduates in our sector. I don't believe that the answer lies solely in increasing funding for domestic students. I really question whether they're there anymore. And at Stenberg, one of the real reasons that the program worked for us was we worked out a combination of that program and a $2,500 grant fund, BC loan grant, to make the program effectively free for everyone coming into it, free. Okay, that's how that worked. And even if we did that today, I question whether it would be as successful because of those other competitive factors that I talked about, and because there are barriers to new Canadians as well in place. So where are these people going to come from? Not just the 1,500 that we need right now. I'm talking about the thousands and thousands that we're going to need over the next decade or two to come. Where are they going to come from? For me, the answer is crystal clear. They are going to come from international sources. Waiting just over the other side of the ocean are millions of people who would love to come into Canada and into British Columbia in particular, and would have no qualms about working in this sector. None at all. They'd be pleased to do it. Okay, we know this. We get thousands and thousands of inquiries through our international recruitment efforts all the time. But the key question they ask is, can I get a work permit to work after my program is ended? And unfortunately, we have to tell them no, because no graduate from a private sector institution, no international student, graduate is eligible to receive a postgraduate work permit. That's a federal program. So one of the key solutions here would be for our government, for us to put pressure on our government, to pressure the federal government, to open up postgraduate work permit, even on a trial basis for one knock code, just for carried, and we would solve the labor shortage almost overnight. As fast as they could be trained, they would come in their thousands if those spaces were open. Okay, so that is there. All the same language standards would of course apply. Not talking about dropping standards of any kind. The output would be the same. Trained and ready, carried to go into practice immediately. And so there are provincial programs, and I'm going to stretch the limit here a little bit, I understand. There are provincial programs in place at great personal risk to my own mental health, well-being. I took it upon myself to do some exploration and try and follow the crooked path of entry into Canada as a international student. And also to look at the PNP programs and express entry programs to see if there was any way that I could come into the country, train as a carry, and go forward. And of course, there is not. Other than to go to a public institution and receive a postgraduate work permit, but then the program has to be beyond 8 months long. What I found interesting, though, was there are special programs. I was drawn immediately to a healthcare professional category for accelerated entry in our provincial programs for immigration. And I wanted to read who it is that they're aiming at here. So among other things, you have to have the support of, or in order to be eligible, have the support of or a full-time indeterminate job offer from a public health authority as a physician, specialist, registered nurse, registered psychiatric nurse, nurse practitioner, allied health professional, such as and the list goes on. Carried is not there. Not there. We have fast track for tech, IT people, and no question there's a demand in that sector as well. Carried is not there. So we're not on the radar with this program at the provincial level as an urgent need. I could go on all day about this. I'm going to get off the stage, but I'm extremely keen to talk about solutions, how we can work together, in education formats, how we can work together to bring this to the attention of all levels of government, because the biggest impact they can make beyond block funding, which they may or may not wish to do, because it would be tens of millions of dollars to reprise the BC Cares initiative and that funding, at no cost whatsoever, not one penny, they could change the immigration policies and solve this problem almost overnight. Thanks very much for your time.